How is Sober Paddy here? I'm back in Bondi and I'm sitting with a Irish, I suppose you call him a philosopher, a poet, a singer, a fiddler, a storyteller, Shannos man, who is in Australia. He's doing an Australian tour with his Round the World in 80 quid. It's basically a tale about himself. It's Aindrias de Staic. I suppose you're an actor as well, aren't you? You're a whole lot of things.
Oh yeah, you know, a gig is a gig, you know. Like yourself, you know, I can do whatever's needed on the night.
Now, your story, your show that you're doing at the moment, it's about, what is it about? Tell us a little bit, the background and where you're coming from.
It's kind of on a few levels. I mean, one level is that it's a show about a guy who travels around the world with just a fiddle, and he just has to busk and brag his way all along. And I suppose that's kind of something I've done for a few years. You remember there in the 90s when Irish music was hugely popular?
Yeah.
You know, lads like us were getting away with murder, you know, we're flying out to Prague to do gigs in Irish pubs and, you know, rambling around doing a lot of tunes. So that's the main level of the show. It's called Around the World in 80 quid, a lad who leaves Galway with 80 quid and a fiddle.
Yeah.
But another level to the show, I suppose, is that it's kind of a mixture of world music and comedy, that every country or every culture that we experience, the guy kind of plays the music of the place. So that's an angle on it as well, and it's kind of storytelling. But I suppose the deeper level, and the one that you might be interested as a sober Paddy, is that it also kind of chronicles, you know, my own battle with drink and drugs. And the guy, when he comes home after going around the world with 80 quid, he actually comes home sober.
Right.
And you know, the highs are so high and the lows are so low that the audience actually kind of almost in spite of themselves celebrate that, you know.
And what was that like for you? Obviously, being part of the whole traditional music scene, there is a heavy emphasis on the party side of things, the alcohol side of things. So going from that to, say, coming back to Ireland after a few years being sober, what was that like? I mean, I suppose, what impact did it have on your family and friends and that?
It took a while for people to realise I had changed, you know. And I suppose that's something we all do. I mean, some people still don't recognise the difference, and some people do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people, you know, will say to me, "Oh, I heard you were back on it," or "I heard you broke out." You know, when I'm at home, because they might hear I was playing music or danced on the table at a party. You know the way it is in Ireland. People think that if you're going crazy, then I must be back on the beer. You know what I mean? There's that Catholic thing of you can't have fun unless you're pissed. So there was that. But I suppose for me, and I suppose it's also chronicled in the show a bit, is that I managed to have a bit of self-expression once I got sober, and I tried to hold on to that and just continue to live with that. But to answer your question, it was easier than I expected to go home, actually. You know, going back to Ireland in the summer is easier, obviously, than in the winter time.
Yeah.
But I have found it difficult going back to Ireland in the winter, and particularly I was working in London this winter, and that can be difficult, you know, in a culture where everybody goes to the pub after work, everyone goes to the pub at the weekend. It's difficult.
So what would you do? Would you go to the pub and just have a couple of cokes or something, or would you just skip it, or what's your sort of take on that?
It kind of depends. I mean, if it's a nice quiet bar, like when I go back to Galway, for instance, there's lovely quiet bars, you know what I mean, where there's not too much pumped out music, it's more the session in the corner. I love that. Yeah. And then in Galway and in the West, people have been very supportive of me, that they know I'm not drinking, they give me a cup of tea on the house, peppermint. You know, I'd walk into the pubs at home in Shrule or into Galway City, into Knockton's, and they'd put a cup of tea up there, you know. And
far from peppermint tea you were raised as well,
Far from peppermint tea you were raised, yeah. And then I might have a few cranberry juices, but once it gets loud and people get sloppy, you know yourself, you go home and, you know, do something else. But sometimes I find playing that music, if I'm actually doing something other than just get pissed, obviously, then you've got a self-expression in a creative sense, and I'm doing something. Do you know what I mean?
Is that where you get it now? You know, obviously when you're drinking or doing drugs, you do get a certain level of intoxication where you feel a certain different sort of sense inside yourself. You're more confident, you're feeling a bit more risky, whatever it is you want to, however you want to describe that. Do you get that now from the music? I mean, I know you probably would have always gotten something from your music that gave you some sort of sense of energy or something different. But do you find that the music is what gives you more of a sense of adventure, or more of a sense of, I suppose, it gives you a bit more of a high? Is that what?
Yeah, well, do you know what's interesting, Paddy? I was thinking about that, and in the old days, you know, when I was doing a lot of drinking drugs, I was getting so many great ideas. You know, great idea for an album with this person, great idea for a song, great idea for a film, great idea for a book of short stories, great idea for a movie, great idea for a TV series, great idea for a documentary. And you know yourself, you'd have one blast of a joint and a drink and you'd be getting thousands of ideas. Yeah. You'd wake up the next morning, you'd have like bits of paper and beer cards with like, do this with 100 exclamation marks going, what the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Because you get all these great ideas, but you just can't it's coming too fast. Whereas I found with the detox of the last few years, I'm able to say, okay, I mean, I still have a lot of trouble focusing, you know. Yeah. And I've been lucky to have the show. That's been a bit of a focus for the last few years, and it's gone really well, thankfully. But at least just taking one or two ideas, you know, I still have 1,000, you know, a list, like yourself, a lot of big to-do list with loads of ideas. But at least getting through that, and I'm never short of inspiration, do you know what I mean? And it comes through, the music and meeting characters like yourself and some of the other great musicians around here in Bondi, you know. And there's a lot of people like that, you know.
And do you miss it at all, you know, getting on the drink, or getting on the drugs? Do you miss that sort of sense of, I suppose, random freedom that you get from, or do you find you're a lot happier inside now?
Yeah, much more content inside. I mean, every now and again, you know, you'd say, oh Jesus, you remember that now, going on the bat there. I used to miss the spontaneity of just meeting someone and then the next few days are right off. But what I found was, I was in Melbourne one evening and I met somebody and we just kind of hung out for a few days drinking cranberry juice, you know what I mean? And I've had that now in other ways, you know, there's other freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you remember the days when you'd go on a bender on a Wednesday, next thing your weekend is right off, where's my phone, where's my wallet, where's my head? And you might be meant to do a gig or a party that weekend. So it's, you know, you have to bring that spontaneity back into your life.
Yeah.
You know, now I can afford to get a credit card. Oh look, I might go to Thailand next weekend. Or look, you know what I mean, might go to Perth. So I think, you know, you have to kind of, you know, for me sobriety is freedom.
For sure.
And I have to just enjoy that.
And do you think, you know, in the future, you know, is there any way you're gonna maintain this sort of sense of living? Is this the way for you? Is there?
I don't know. You know, it's kind of one day at a time, as they say.
For sure, yeah.
You know, I'm not going to have a drink today, and it's funny. The last few years for me have been amazing. You know, since I got sober, I've been able to afford to travel, to play, to tour the show. I've been doing lots of everything, film, TV, the whole lot, and I think, you know, obviously I'm looking at settling down somewhere in the next few years, but no rush either, you know.
No, there's nothing you really want to jump into unless you're completely satisfied with yourself first, you know.
It,
so what's next with the tour? You're going to be bringing it back to the UK, or?
Yeah, we've got. We're very lucky. I've just been in the UK with another show. There's a show called Woody Says.
Yep.
About the life and times of Woody Guthrie. So I was very lucky to get cast in that. It's my first big West End role. So, and while I was doing that, I met a few people who were interested in my show. They're around the world in 80 quid. So they're bringing that to Edinburgh this year. The Pleasance, which is one of the biggest venues in Edinburgh every year. I did a preview for them in London, and they're bringing it up to Edinburgh in August. And then I'm doing, there's a film called 7 Songs for Amy that's shooting in the west of Ireland, doing a bit for that. And then I've got an Irish tour with the show as well. We're doing Galway at Town Hall Theatre on the 28th, and we're in Terryglass in Tipperary on the 15th of August. So there's a few other
it's all
random
happening.
Gigs between Ireland and the UK.
I suppose a lot of the people look at these videos, you know, they might be contemplating trying to give up drink, and they might be contemplating their own lifestyle. Is there anything you'd have, or any sort of tip that you sort of learn for yourself, or was there a particular sort of tipping point that you could recognise, that you can tell people about, that maybe can help them in terms of how they're looking at themselves, or maybe if they're looking at their own sort of drinking habits and going, oh, here's something I can do to make it better? Is there something that you do that makes it a lot easier for you?
Yeah. Well, you know, if your life is a mess and you think it could be the drink, then it's definitely worth investigating that, you know what I mean?
Then it probably is the drink.
It could be, like for me, I always thought, oh, it's just the depression, oh, it's just my crazy life, oh, it's just because I'm broke, oh, it's just because I'm, you know, this, that and the other. But, you know, whatever your problems are, they'll be a lot less if you can detox for a while. And it mightn't even have to be forever, you know, just think about doing a detox for 3 months, 6 months or a year, and then make a decision after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're a person like us, or like what we used to be like,
lunatics.
The former lunatics. If your life is way too mental and you can't handle it, and it is really getting to be a problem. You know, have a look at the drink. I mean, it might be your gambling problem. You know, everyone has their vices. You know, but if you're like us and you have had a problem, I would say to try and sort it out. And there's always, don't be afraid to get in touch with people either. You know what I mean? Get in touch with yourself or the
or you
or
go
me.
to see one of your shows have a chat afterwards.
Have a chat after the show. Or yeah, I wish we had more merchandise. Buy my book.
Buy these T-shirts. You'll feel a lot better about yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
there's a few networks there of support. You know, the different things you can look up. You know, on the various websites that you will find help, and you know, your life does get better. And the thing that I learnt, and we all learned it the hard way, is you often give up the drink for a week or two and you expect your life to immediately get better, but it gets worse.
Always gets worse before it gets better.
And there's like anything from 6 weeks to 9 weeks of like pain, and like it's getting sober is not easy. You know what I mean? And you know, but the longer you leave it, I suppose, the harder it can be. But it's never too late either. And but definitely, if you give it 6 months to a year, you will notice massive turnarounds. You know, your nerves get better. You're no longer as broke as you used to be. You can suddenly like afford to buy food. You're not always losing your phone, your wallet, your clothes, your keys, and you find that your friends are still there as well the next morning. So you know,
it's always a good thing.
Yeah, you know, there's things like that I remind myself. And you know, it's great as well to catch up with people like yourself that have similar stories.
Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of reminds me. Because you know yourself, sometimes you're sober and you feel you're on this lonely road on your own. But then connecting with people like yourself is great, you know. And that's one thing I love about coming up here to Sydney. There's so many great people like the Bowel Danto McKeown.
The Bowel Danto.
Some great musicians here,
that's
you know.
It, yeah. Mr. Bondi himself.
That's it. And, you know, that kind of self-expression, that's what keeps me going. People that have soul and people that are out there doing it. You know, alcohol and drugs are great for making you think about it, making you talk about it. But when it actually comes to doing it, you know, they won't give you the energy. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
You know, be better off have a bowl of cornflakes and a cup of coffee, you know.
We'll leave it there. That note, Aindrias de Staic, good meal and mahog at the car.
Good meal, we see you at the lower slat.
Shinai.
It's fake mahurish, like one day.
I couldn't say. That's it. Thanks very much, Aindrias de Staic, for chatting to us today. I'm the sober Paddy. Get up out of the building. Hope the lottie is good.